With the trade wind singing in the palms, the Polynesians put on fancy dress and greet you with a dance as colorful as a Rarotongan door.
Who am I? Am I just an object? Am I just a representation? Am I just exotic?
If you're fair and you have a Eurocentric nose and your hair's long and wavy and you can sway your hips, then you have a better chance of someone who isn't.
Makes you feel like that's not where people like you belong.
I'm like, oh, that's so sad that we amount our beauty to our proximity to whiteness.
Old white men have always been guided by their penis, I think.
I think the most problematic element of the ongoing Dusky Maiden trope is it's still just below the consciousness when you see the way we are looked at and perceived by white people in certain settings and the way that we are controlled, certainly in the media, how we are fashioned to look like some kind of second-rate white woman. So it's still happening.
Right from the 1700s, we have these tropes that have endured for centuries of this paradise, benign, non-threatening, sexually beautiful, desirable people in the Pacific.
Now, in our culture, prior to the arrival of Europeans, women and men have equal access to power, to control, and to their sexuality. When we signed the treaty and became British citizens, that was a time when women were chattels in Britain. They were literally owned by their fathers until they were given away in marriage. They had no rights, and they were the people who colonised the Pacific.
There are a whole range of different ideologies that were used to justify colonisation. And one of them was this ideology called manifest destiny. God has destined you to come and have this place. I'm sorry, everyone else that's there, but this is our destiny. So it's not just one philosopher or one ideology, it's a whole network of these. And then when you build in the missionary influence as well, that had significant effect on the way that belief systems changed.
So we have had hundreds of years of patriarchy shaping and defining our identity, which then condemned us to the subservient role as the savage, the native, harlots and whores.
Polynesian women in postcards and a whole range of different paintings are constructed to offer pleasure. And often they will be offering something like fruit or a lei.
And if she gives you a lei and she welcomes you, that image and that expectation doesn't just make you believe you can have the place, but it also makes you believe that it's our responsibility to give it to you. The image of the hula girl has been central in selling the land. The hula maiden is positioned in the forefront to welcome you, to make you believe that what you are coming to, you can take. So you can come to Hawaii, you can experience Hawaii, and then you can take it away in your fantasy. And hey, if you like it enough, come back and buy a piece of property, because you probably have enough money to buy it from the people who can't afford it.
Over 90% of the world's pineapples are grown and packed in Hawaii.
Women were employed to help growers' associations sell pineapples, for example. Even though pineapple's not indigenous to Hawaii, these objects of desire, these objects of interest, they became commodities themselves as they were helping to sell commodities. They're exotic fruit, just like the women, and you can consume both. And the Western male gaze and imagination wants to consume both and fantasize about both.
Still similar nowadays. as outsiders feel they can become landowner through women. That's sad and that's revolting as well, because people haven't evolved from the 18th century when this stereotype was created.
We know that it is not a true representation of the Pacific. That is a very romantic, colonial representation, and it reinforces racism, as to what is the ideal concept of beauty.
Whiteness was seen as the apex of this hierarchy, and blackness was seen as the very lowest. And Polynesian skin was this midway point in terms of their colour of their skin.
Which means they are more acceptable, still less than, but more acceptable.
Melanesian women are more represented in the tribal image side of things. It's like we're very angry, scary, aggressive side, less glamorized. It's seen as this ancient, very from like before.
A lot of postcards of Melanesian women don't position them in that kind of exotic reclining way. They are often doing some kind of work. You never see that in Polynesian postcards. Often there is more of a range in terms of the age of Melanesian women, whereas for Polynesian women, they're young girls. They're not older women. In the late 1800s, the post-impressionist artist Paul Gauguin, who many of us will be familiar with, spent the last around decade of his life in Tahiti and the Marquesas. And his paintings absolutely fixed young, often adolescent women in particular, in these timeless tropes of the exotic maiden. And the tourist industry since then, right up into the present, have built on this kind of persona. And so it's almost become part of our collective imagination and memory.
When I was in high school, I thought seeing Paul Gauguin's paintings of the Tahitian women, I thought that was the best because I could just see that these were women who were this type of brown that I was and that were, shapely and their form was very different. But what that also meant that old mate was bringing STIs to the islands. Thank you, Gauguin. That's this whole reality of depicting these women as exotic beauties, but then the reality is really tragic.
His way of seeing women and his way of considering women, nowadays he would be considered as a pedophile.
Ah, Tahiti. I will find authentic sauvage pussy. I will live free as an animal, tranquil and free. I will strip these girls out of their mother habits. I'll make them sit in authentic poses, strip them and make them my virgins, hold their own titties like a bowl of mangoes. She is 13, 14, 15, 16, no more than 17.
And it's even sadder to see how he considered teenagers at the time, like just potential sexual partners. So, was Gauguin a rapist? Coming through Tahiti just to enjoy his time with underage girls? That's awful. As a mother, I could not look at him in the eye.